Oh my, we are live. So I haven't been live or made a video in quite a while, and the MacBook was broken and not working. So I figured I would begin for a stream. I'm going to wait for a few people to come in, and then we're going to talk about one of the videos that Nathan Rich put out recently. Of course, Nathan Rich talks about CCP, of course, because he loves CCP, and even though he doesn't say it, of course he does. I'm just going to wait a little bit for a couple people to come in at least, and going to make a few statements, and then if the chat is moving at all, I will answer the chat. I know that I'm streaming on a Tuesday at like 3 p.m., and it's really strange to stream on a Tuesday at 3 p.m. So I'll probably leave this up for a few days, especially since I haven't made a video in a while. I also want to say that there will be a video. I'll probably film and edit tonight. I've been putting it off. I just haven't done it yet. So I'll probably film and edit tonight and then put a video out maybe tomorrow or the next day. The next video will be a video probably about Barrett, I assume. Maybe a Barrett video, maybe a Jayo. I'm not exactly sure yet. I have a couple that I've been working on, so we will have to see. Drinking the Perrier water. So yeah, with that being said, as the title says, can you hate CCP but love China? And I think that this is a funny discussion, because this is something that a lot of people have been saying for a long time, right? And that's because, of course, as everyone knows, there's this divide in the community. There's the people that are like, hey, I love China. And then there's the people that say negative things about China. And there's the people that don't say anything negative about China pretty much ever, right? And the people that never say anything negative about China are kind of trying to imply that they're pro-China, that they love China, and that the people that somehow point out the negatives of China are anti-China, that they're racist, or they hate CCP, or they hate Chinese people, or whatever, right? And so the question is, can you love China and not like the CCP? And the answer, of course, is yes. Of course, that I think the way that they're going about this is they're trying to apply a Chinese way of thinking onto Westerners, and as Westerners, we're very aware and logical about our governments. We're very willing to be to discredit our government, to say bad things about our government, to be critical of our government. Whereas if in China, they have this thing where people aren't allowed to, really. And sure, you have people that can go on the internet and they'll say, I don't like this or I don't like that, but there's no real protesting against government in China, right? There's no, it's very limited as to what you can say. And so what these people like to do, the Nathan Riches, of course, they like to interpret, and the CCP does this, of course, too, is the CCP as being one and the people of China as being one. And of course, quite obviously, the CCP is people, right? They are Chinese people, just like the American government is American people. But I think that there's a very obvious difference between a career politician and just your average everyday worker, right? Same thing in China. It's very difficult to, it's very difficult to say, oh man, I just, they're the same. The government is the same as the people. It's completely the same. It's just not true, right? It's just not true. When you talk to Chinese people, Chinese people, of course, have their own opinions on things. Again, it's just they're not able to talk about it, And again, this is the argument that the CCP actually wants you to believe. They want you to believe that the CCP of course, has the absolute power. But they also want you to believe that that's what Chinese people want, that everything that Chinese people want is everything that the CCP is doing. And that's not true, right? That's just not true. And they want you to believe that. And the reason that they want you to believe that is because they want you to believe that the CCP's failures, and of course there are failures, they want you to believe that their failures are a part of the whole country. They say, well, we as Chinese people have to do better, when of course the CCP fails. But anytime the Chinese people are successful, which is pretty much all the success in China is because of the people. Is it really because of the Chinese party? Not really. Anytime there is success in China, of course the CCP, they will take credit, right? Do this is that they say, well, you hate China, and because you hate CCP, you hate China, and CCP is one, and Chinese people are the same. They say, oh, you're a racist, you hate Chinese people, and what a lot of these shills don't understand is that that's exactly what they're doing. They're saying the exact same thing that the CCP says. They're saying, oh, well, you don't like China because you don't like CCP, and they're the same, and it's just not the same. It's not the same, right? And it's very difficult to try to say that when you have over 1 billion people living in your country, that the CCP represents all of them. It's just impossible, right? So you have these people like Nathan Rich that, again, they want to create this difference. They want to convince Chinese people, the Chinese people that are here on YouTube anyways, and Billy and social media, that they're somehow the heroes, that they're the heroes of China. And that what they're saying, what they're doing is actually what's best for Chinese people. When in the end, what they're essentially doing is they're essentially taking something like the CCP and they're regarding it as if it's doing something good or something, amazing. And they're giving credit to the CCP when they shouldn't be, they should not be doing that, but of course they're not. Yeah, of course, I agree. To the comments, yeah, if you don't like the broadcast, go away. You don't have to be here. That's just the way that it is. I don't really make videos in my audience for people that don't like my channel. If you don't like my channel, go somewhere else. I don't have time for little children, but it's just that situation where they want to perpetuate this thing of everyone is racist. And sorry that I keep drinking the water. I have a tooth that hurts, It's killing me. And I guess I have to get it pulled in a couple days. But no, and what the CCP has done is that they've been in power so long that they have actually convinced people of this. They've actually convinced Chinese people of this. And what's happening now is that the CCP has actually convinced Chinese people that they have some form of freedom, and they don't know, they don't know that they lack freedom. It's to that point where Chinese people are now becoming able to afford to go to other places, and then they go to other places, and then they see freedom, and they come back to China, and they still don't realize that they lack a lot of freedom, and it's hilarious to me because even now in America, we have a lot of Chinese people that, they will say things like, oh, well, America is so racist. But when you look around at America and you realize how many Chinese people live here and how many Chinese people are American and were born here and are ABC and things like that, it also just goes to show that the Chinese people here don't a lot of times know anything about CCP. They don't know anything about their homeland. So how can you say that, you can't love China without loving the CCP, or that you can't differentiate between the two? And to me, that's crazy because there are Chinese people all over the world now. And many of them are not born in China, right? Mainland China. And so it's just this insanity with these shills that somehow want to perpetuate this idea that if you say anything negative about mainland China, that of course you're racist, that you hate Chinese people, and that's just not true. You know, admittedly, there is history of things that have happened, to people in mainland China against mainland China in history. But in at least in the West, in America now, I will say in America because I can't speak for all countries, but at least in America, Chinese people to me are the most coddled people we have in society now. They make more money than white people. They go to better universities. They get better jobs. And I don't know of any white person that I could go up to and be like, hey, what do you think about Chinese people? And they would be like, screw them. They're horrible people. Like, it just, it would be something very rare. If you went up to 100 people, maybe you would find, some idiot, right, that would say something negative. Um, so this idea that people don't know the difference between China and CCP, right? Even in America, no one is saying, oh, well, we hate China, and they don't mean Chinese people, they mean the Chinese government, right? And so I think we have to continue this thing where when people say that, oh, you can't love China without loving the CCP, we have to say, no, this is not right, this is incorrect. You have to quit, pushing this agenda that they're the same, because they're not. They're not the same. Not all Chinese people agree with what the CCP is doing. Not all of them are aligned with that, and many of them are just afraid to actually speak up, right, and say things that they want. So let me read a few comments here really quickly. Probably not going to stream very long, maybe just 20 or 30 minutes today. I'm already at 12 minutes, and I kind of just wanted to do this to test and make sure that everything was working. It is beyond CCP. It is culture, thousands of years of culture. Well, China was very different, a long time ago compared to now. The CCP has changed Chinese culture a lot within just the last, so many years. And they've done that by force, right? By telling you, hey, either you conform to what we want and what we say or what we want you to do, or we'll just run you over with a tank, right? And people have no other choice. Too many 5 miles. Yeah. Those Wu Maos, they're kind of funny because they come to the channel and then I just block them because, they don't contribute to discussion at all. If someone comes to my channel and they disagree with me, that's completely fine. I encourage people to disagree. If you want to disagree with me, of course, I'm probably going to call you an idiot or something, but, you're more than welcome to disagree. But, no, the Wu Mao people that are just completely brain dead, I just block them, get rid of them. China is the world now, social credit system for all. The situation with China is that their system is so very different with communism that they could never really conform to the rest of the world, and the world is not going to completely conform to them. And that's a lot of the things that the CCP, when they say, oh, the world is racist, the world hates Chinese people. It's not that the world hates Chinese people. It's that in China, you have a system that doesn't work well with the rest of the world. Communism in their system is just, it doesn't work very well with the rest of the world. It's insane how for so many years they've allowed IP theft and all of these types of things, and they've controlled so many companies and things, and they try to say that they're free market when they're really not. It's just the way that communism works. Communism will always be the number one, the top, the base power, and they will always be over every other system that they have in their country. And they're going to tell you, oh, well, we have companies and they're on the stock market and they're free, and blah 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 blah. But they're really not. There's always some kind of attachments back to the government in there, and there's always going to be corruption in that way, right? You are Chinese equal you are China. Yeah, that is the race card, and that is what they are pushing as hard as possible. And again, I don't know anyone, I don't know anyone that just hates Chinese people for Chinese people. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, but of course it's very rare, Taiwan #1. Yes, Taiwan is great. My friend Yang Guiza is actually there right now. He finished his quarantine, I guess, maybe a few days ago, a week ago, maybe a week ago now. I'm kind of out of the loop. And if you want to type in his channel, Yang Guiza, you can go check. And he's in Taiwan. Taiwan is a great place, and I'm hoping to get there again, get there for some videos. Should be fun. Anyone who has been to China will hold a grudge and have negative stereotypes about Chinese. I think that's the funny thing is you go on places like TikTok now, and you see a lot of pro-China propaganda. And what I mean by that is pro-CCP propaganda. And they try to push off this idea that everyone's racist and that everyone hates China, and that, Chinese people specifically are being just beaten down in the streets all the time. And it's like, that's just not happening. Again, you might find some lone wolf case of something like this, but it's not happening all the time. And it's just so cheesy and corny what you see on TikTok, the commercials, and the way that people are saying things. And you can tell that a lot of these people, maybe they're Chinese people in the West that have actually been brainwashed, of course, by what they're seeing online. They've actually never even been to China. And I was arguing with this guy on TikTok, of course, quite a bit younger, ABC, American-born Chinese, and he had never been to China, and he was trying to talk about how great communism was. And I spoke to him in Chinese, and he didn't understand anything that I said, and I was quite shocked to find out that he doesn't speak any Chinese even. And I had told him, I said, if you think that America treats you very unfairly, go to China, where you don't speak any Chinese, and let me know how that goes for you. Because he would be mocked and made fun of, he would be pushed as an outcast, and the way that he would be treated would just be insanely horrible. Using StreamYard to stream? No, I'm actually not. I'm just using the YouTube. I do have StreamYard. So I could use multiple things and pull you in the future if you ever want to. Probably not today, but if you want to do a stream with me, I would love to have you on, and we could discuss things. I think you and I differ in opinion on some things. I think we're in the same book, but maybe on some different pages. And so it would be great to have a discussion with you. They're bursting with creativity and innovation that is hampered by the CCP. I agree. Like, here's the thing. Like, you look at Hong Kong and you look at Taiwan, and it's insane how like innovative and creative that people can be, and how artsy people can be. And then you look at China and you realize that people are just so held back, by a lot of the policies of CCP. And again, like, that's even more evidence that you can love Chinese people but not love the CCP, because that's something that really holds Chinese people back. And that's the main argument for pretty much everyone, right? If you really love China, you can't be pro-CCP, because the CCP doesn't do anything good for Chinese people, right? If you love Chinese people, then you definitely aren't pro-CCP, right? You would want freedoms for Chinese people. You would want Chinese people to be able to express themselves. And so that's why when you have these shills that are pandering to Wu Maos and nationalists and all of these crazy psycho people, they're on like Reddit, they're on like the Sino forums and on Reddit. These people don't love China like they're telling you they do. These people are just really overly political, extreme people. They're a very small, tiny, marginal percentage of Chinese people, right? It's just insane. Dude, I'm second-gen Chinese immigrant, and I don't have the guts to actually speak up against the CCP. I think they'll punish my family back in China. Of course, right? Like, I would tell you, my wife is here in America, and she is completely afraid. Even though her political ideas are not pro-CCP, she is completely afraid to post anything like that on the internet, or say anything on WeChat or any Chinese media, right? There is no way she would ever say anything like that because she realizes that she has family in China that could be affected, and it's very real. And a lot of these shills, even you can see in the videos as of recent, which I've exposed a lot of times, is they think that like if you say good things about CCP, then you're untouchable, and that's just not true. You're not a part of that cool kids club if you're not Chinese, if you're not in that CCP, right? And it's a real fear, and I feel bad. I really do. I feel bad for Chinese people that live in China that have to, experience that fear because it's insane to the rest of the world, right? In America, we bash our presidents to the extreme. We say horribly bad things about them. We have TV shows that say bad things about them. Whether you agree or disagree with Donald Trump, they made so much fun of him on TV shows like Saturday Night Live, and you would never see something like that in China, right? It would never be allowed. It would just never happen. And in a lot of times in America now, we have people that are so confused. They look at having these two parties that disagree. They look at that as if it's a bad thing, right? But that's not a bad thing. Having parties that disagree and have to fight to reach an agreement is not a bad thing, actually. That's a good thing. That means that there is still a differing opinion, right? That's the problem with China, is you're not allowed to have a differing opinion. And, that's why when a lot of Chinese people, nationalists, Wu Mao, try to say, well, media in America is corrupt. It's like, well, sure. But the difference is that you have more than one side. You have 10 sides, 15 sides, and you can have your own opinion and you can represent your own opinion, right? Whereas if in China, it's all funneled through one hole, it's always the same, Let's see. Oh, my tooth killing me. It makes me want to like rip my tooth out myself and just be done with it. Maybe one day that's what I'll do. I'll just rip my tooth out and be done with it. But with the COVID thing right now, they can only schedule so many people per day. Let's see. Yeah, that is some loud drinking, man. Actually, it's funny. The microphone is like right there, so like anything I do, yeah, it's going to be obvious. I lived in China for 6 years. About year two, my opinion of the country went south. For me, same amount of time. But here's the thing: I tried to ignore the negatives of China for so long, and you can only ignore the negatives for so long before you realize that what you had, back in your home country or even another country, I could see living in Thailand or Japan before mainland China again. I could see living in Taiwan, right? And so you can only experience negativity for so long before you're like, man, screw it. It's too much. I have to leave. I have to find something else. I can't put up with it forever. And I think that's what happens with most people. Is most people go to China and then a year goes by and they go through that honeymoon phase, and then 2 years they really start to get sick of it, and then by the third year you're probably done by then. Well, some of us have made it even double that, and some other people even longer, right? And if you lived in China for 10 years, well, then you're pretty damn tough, because I wouldn't be able to do that, Most foreign in China face the cultural gap, issues with visa, being called a Laowai all the time. You'll never be Chinese. No, being created, witnessing lack of empathy. Yeah, I agree. That's the thing, is like, there's too little acceptance of foreigners in China. You have this thing where try to fit in. You're like, oh, I'll learn the language. Oh, I'll get a Chinese wife, or I'll buy a car in China. I'll go to Chinese bars and make all Chinese friends, and I'll eat Chinese food. And then like, yeah, but you're still a foreigner. and you're like, oh shit. And then a lot of people would try to get the Chinese green card, and then they would fail, and then they'd be like, yeah, this is lame. And then now, as of recent, a lot more people actually started to get the Chinese green card, and they've kind of realized that like it doesn't really do anything, that your life is still your life in China, and that's just the way that it is. And it gets old. It gets old because we in the West, we honestly bitch and complain and cry and moan about discrimination, but like from the second you step off the plane in China, you'll be discriminated against. And that's no matter what color you are, if you're not Chinese, you're just not Chinese. And it gets old. It gets old really fast. I guess for those ABC and BBC who speak no Chinese, they will be eaten alive in China. Yes, that's true. Like if you are an ABC and you go to China, like you would be picked on. You would be seen as an outcast. They would never accept you. It's hard enough to be accepted anyways, but to be a Chinese person that didn't speak Chinese or couldn't write in Chinese, holy shit! Like it would be horrible. I wouldn't I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Yeah, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. I don't agree with the Chinese government a lot of times, but from my personal experience, I think China handles COVID better than Canada and US. Is it wrong? Do they handle it better? Well, what I want to say is this. The reason that we have COVID here in America is largely because of the way that the CCP handled it. They lied in the beginning. They didn't tell us that we were getting it. Keep in mind, this is not the first time that America has had, some kind of virus come from another place and enter America. We've had things that even with higher death rates, right, come from another country to America, and it's never gotten this quite out of hand, and that's because it happened for a month and a half, and we didn't even know, for one. And then I do think the other thing is a lot of people would blame Americans and say, well, it's the mask thing. Well, I mean, hey, if you want to come here to Chicago right now and you want to go outside and look and see, everyone's wearing a mask. You know what I mean? It's masks are not 100% effective. Okay. It's just not. Now, do I think that the Chinese government is far more strict on things? I mean, yeah, probably, right? They're probably more strict. And do I think that helps? Probably, yeah. I mean, if you could force every American to stay inside their home for 30 days, and if you want to go to the extreme of bolting them inside and welding their doors shut like they had in China, I mean, sure. Then I think sure you could probably do a little better. And I'm saying that as someone that had COVID and knows people now that have COVID and have I had a family member die because of COVID. But I also believe that that's the decision of a lot of Americans, right? A lot of Americans would rather risk getting COVID and continue living their lifestyle than they would stay at home constantly and things like that. So do I think that China handles it better? I think they handle it differently. I think China handles it in their own way, and a lot of American people have handled it in their own way. And like I said, I know people that have died, but those people would have never been happy staying home staying home forever. One thing I do think is that America should really shut its borders and stop allowing people from other countries until we can at least get the vaccine out and get it in control. Even though I supported Trump, I do believe that that's one thing that they probably could have done better. But at the same time, the American government is not nearly as forceful as the Chinese government, and it's left up to people a lot of times in America to do what they think is best for themselves. So, you know. So, let's see. And I also want to say too, when I was in China, I was stuck inside for probably a good 40 days. 45 days. Didn't go out, didn't do anything. Had everything delivered. Did all that stuff. So, it was pretty horrible. It kind of sucked, actually. But maybe when you deal with the kind of oppression that Chinese people deal with on a daily basis, perhaps it's easier for them to deal with it than Americans. Wonder if Guelo 60 would think the same of China if he had to raise kids there, only use Chinese healthcare, earn a Chinese wage, working for a Chinese company. He's a brain dead permaturist. Yeah, he lives. Guelo 60 doesn't live life like a Chinese person in China. He doesn't work there. Obviously, he doesn't do anything himself. Top boys will he doesn't. He couldn't walk into a fucking store and say naga taka. He can't. He literally speaks like nothing, and it's quite shocking to think that a person that lives in China for 16 years couldn't even say what his name is or something, or couldn't have basic conversation. And the only way that you reach that point is after 16 years of knowing nothing, is by 100% allowing someone else to do everything for you. Because as a foreigner, and I'm not just like crying here as a foreigner, but as a foreigner in China, things are kind of difficult. A lot of things you sort of have to have help with sometimes. And I understand that. But, there's a lot of things that you got to learn how to do on your own. And you have to speak some Chinese to do that, because they're not going to hold your hand in China. China doesn't hold your hand as much as like Thailand does, or Taiwan, or Japan. A lot of these countries, they're very helpful in the process. But China's kind of not. And it's because China's not super adapt to foreigners like a lot of these other countries are. And if Guelo 60 had to work in China and see how poor management can be in China, then he would understand. If Guelo 60 had to put his children into school there and see, the how much homework those kids have and how hard it is, he would understand. If he had to go to the hospital that I had to go to, I was in a hospital where a guy was literally smoking a cigarette in the ER. And in the ER that I was in, a man had bugs on him that were physically crawling, and I could see them with the visible eye. Now, I'm not saying that every hospital in China is like that, but the hospital I was in was like that. Okay. And, that's very real. That's not a lie. I'm not making that up. There was literally a man smoking in the ER, and the nurses were there allowing him to do it, right? They were standing right there. And I have like tubes in my nose, and I'm like, I think I'm dying, and I am dying at that point. So Guelo lives in a bubble. A lot of the foreigners live in a bubble. And but especially Guelo, because he forces himself into that bubble. He doesn't want to learn. And that's the other thing, was when I was in China, there are things that are very interesting to me, about China, the different kingdoms and things like that. And, the mythological things. You read about Hou Yi and Guan Yu and Mo Zi and all those people and those characters. And, you learn about that stuff, and you learn about it by reading. You learn about it by learning Chinese and the language. He has, no freaking idea who Naja is, or any of those characters. Does he even know who Monkey King is? Like, probably not, right? he just doesn't understand. The fact that spouses of Chinese nationals don't get permanent residency automatically is a travesty, and then China wonders why so many Chinese couples leave. That's the thing, and it's here's the other thing. It's not just people leave China that have wives and can't stay there and work there on a spousal visa. There's a lot of people that just go there as tourists and never return. They'll go to China one time and never return. I read this article that said that China was like one of the most traveled to tourist destinations in the world, but it's also like a one-time traveled to. Like people go there once and then they don't go there again. And the major complaints were like toilets, which is true. Like finding a toilet in China that has a Western toilet that has toilet paper that doesn't smell like complete death is like, China's just not set up very well for foreigners. Not only will you never be Chinese as a foreigner, but you will never be a part of the PRC unless you're already ethically Chinese. At least when I'm, right. Like it's not even like, even if you were a white person, that was born in China, you would still never be seen as equal. Even if you were born there, it would never be. You spoke the language, perfectly. Like I said, if you were born there as a child and grew up there, you would never be accepted completely, right? Whereas if in America, a lot of the people that are here illegally, we don't know the difference. We don't know if you're American or not. It's impossible to tell, Once you understand Chinese, their racism becomes blatant. Yeah, it really does. And that's the thing is like, once you understand Chinese, you listen to the conversations and you not, here's another thing. A lot of people will say, well, I can speak Chinese, but do you understand Chinese, right? You can listen to Chinese, but do you understand Chinese, right? And China is language in China is very much tied to their culture, right? So even if you can listen to Chinese, can you understand the reasoning behind what they're saying, right? And then when you do, you start to realize that a lot of that racism and stuff is just it will never go away, right? It's just it's not going to go away, not for a very long time, unless an insane amount of foreigners move to China and they really open it up to foreigners and make it easy for foreigners to stay there and live there long term. They've got a long ways to go, and to be fair, nothing that the government does in China now would lead anyone to believe that that's what they want. They still say that Chinese people are CCP. CCP is Chinese, right? It's China, right? And as long as you have that, you have this system that would never put foreigners on equal ground, or maybe not foreigners per se, but people that could immigrate there, and you know what I mean? You look in Western society, and we have people that have immigrated, to America and become a part of our politics, and is that something that will the CCP ever have someone that immigrated to China that is not ethnically Chinese as a part of CCP? Probably not, right? Guelo, the happy clueless drunk, right? I know exactly, the happy clueless drunk. It must be nice to be able to live in a country and be completely clueless about anything and everything. Willow 60 can't speak Mandarin at all, but at least he is drunk. Are you drunk right now? No, you're jealous. Exactly. And I think one of the things that I find funny about Guelo 60 is how he always brags about it. He's always like, my life in China is great because I'm traveling and I'm drunk. And I'm like, why? Like, when I was in China, I didn't want to be drunk all the time. I wanted to experience things and remember things. I didn't want to be so drunk that everything was just a forgotten blur, right? China, it shaped the way that I think and made me appreciate things that were in China and made me appreciate things that were outside of China. It made me question a lot of the things that we do in America that we need to improve in America, and it made me question a lot of the things about that people think we do poorly in America, but not really poorly. It's just a different way of doing things, you know. Um, and that's something he will never understand. But also, he's you know, he's like what, in his 60s or 70s, so maybe he doesn't care, right? Perhaps he just has that idea that he's living out his life, and whatever he's left with is what he's left with, right? And when he dies, he doesn't care. I don't know, but you know, I definitely care. I care about, you know, my family and my friends in China. So, you know. By RBK. RBK is he's like an OG of the channel. He's one of those people that comes to every stream. He always comments. He's one of the usuals. And RBK, I appreciate that, man. That you always come around and always comment. And I know you donate money too. But no, it's appreciated that you just come and comment. Even that's awesome, man. Started watching Guelo because I coincidentally saw his retiring to China videos. I thought it was a pretty smart idea, but as long as he gets into politics and shill business, I'm done. Well, here's the thing. I'll tell you, is someone quite obviously, I'm not at retirement age, but you know, I have a background in finance, and I have worked with a lot of people that do want to retire. And if you seriously are looking to retire, China is one of the worst countries, at least as a Westerner, right, that you could retire to. There are so many countries that are cheaper. You know, there are so many countries that are going to treat you better. You know, there are countries out there, and you can actually Google this if you don't believe me. There are actually countries there that if you take like an annuity, and you know, I don't know if people know what an annuity is, but if you have income from, say, your government, or you have an annuity, that you could move there, and they will give you discounts on like your electric bill. They will give you discounts on domestic flights. They will give you discounts on entertainment and things, and discounts on your rent. You know, there are countries like Panama, and there are countries, you know, there's a huge list of them, and I don't want to say more of them because I don't know if it's changed over the years, but there's countries like Ecuador too that are just, they're so much better than China. They're just so much better than China for retiring. To be perfectly honest with you, when people say China is cheap, well, I mean, sort of. The food is cheap, you know, but if you want a car, it's not cheap. If you want luxury good items, if you want to buy yourself a new MacBook, it's not cheap. If you want to buy yourself a new camera, like an expensive camera, it's not cheap, because they have a luxury goods tax on those imported things, right? And your rent, if you want to live in a city that's going to offer you as a foreigner a good hospital, which is pretty damn hard to find, you know, and good whatever, right? You're going to have to live in one of these cities, and your rent is probably going to be more, or at least equal to what you pay already in the West, you know? You know, my rent at the cheapest place in China that I lived was over $1,000 a month, right? And before the end of it, it was over 2,000 a month. So you're talking about quite a bit of money. You're talking about equal for Americans at least. And I know not everyone's from America, but sorry, you know, I'm American, so that's the point of view that I speak from. Everyone knows that California and New York are expensive. Well, it's quite common to spend the same amount of rent in China as people in America would spend in California and New York. So when you say, "Oh, well, I'm going to retire to China," I mean, it just doesn't seem, you know, it just doesn't seem logical, really. There's a lot better places you could go. And that's not to say that Chinese women aren't beautiful. That's not to say that Chinese women aren't great. That's not to say that, you know, whatever. If you're a guy, anyways, I'm speaking from a guy's perspective. I think if you're a woman, it's probably a little harder. Again, I'm not a woman, so I can't be 100% there. But from my experience I've noticed that a lot of women that try to move to China to find a man, they kind of struggle. They have a hard time, you know. And for retirement, I just wouldn't retire to China, and that's unfortunate, right? Because I do think China offers a lot of good things. I just think that they don't do anything for you to retire there. They just don't. Let's see. Yes, you can hate CCP and love China. I appreciate that. That is true. That is true. And again, I hope people understand that, like I said, this is about a Nathan Rich video that I'm just kind of talking and ranting and trying out the MacBook again. Ollie Barrett came to China to be a social media influencer. Go to school and get a real job. Okay, bye. I'm going to work now. Yeah, right. I think we all have that dream of being a social media influencer and making a lot of money off of it, but it's not that easy. I don't blame them for making content. I think their travel content is good. The Barretts, I dislike their political content, but they have to continue that political content in order to prop up their traveling content, because I don't think their travel content is nearly strong enough. China will never even give you a normal citizenship who wants to go there to retire. Exactly, right? Like, and there's no like retirement visa that's like, they literally don't want you to retire in China. They only want people that could go there and be used and work and provide to their country. Like, if you can't go there and work in China and provide to their country, be it, doing a specialized job, or even teaching English. Like, you think about it, when you're an English teacher, think about what you're doing for a second. You're helping educate their children for the future, right? You're doing, even though a lot of people want to talk shit about English teachers, you're doing something that's quite important to China's future, right? And that's why they allow it, A Westerner retiring in China would be like a non-Catholic retiring in Vatican City. Exactly. Less than 10% population joined CCP. The issue with CCP is it's always attached. Even if you're not a part of it, you still end up being attached to it. You'll work at a company, and they'll have the CCP agent there, and they'll ask you every year if you want to join the CCP, and they'll try and recruit you. And of course, they're told from the beginning that if you join the CCP, you're going to get a lot of advantages. You're going to get help, and that's true, right? So a lot of people join the CCP with the idea that it's going to help them later in life, And when I say join CCP, of course, I mean, not everyone that joined CCP is the same, right? Quite obviously, you have these millions of people that have joined CCP, and they just give money. It's like a social union, right? Like a union would be in America, the teachers union or the construction union or whatever, right? And you give them money every month, and then there's somehow this hidden benefit they claim, and really you're just giving them money. And that's the way that it works. But of course, they don't have any voting power. So yep. How do you get your money out of China? You smuggle that shit out. Actually, I had to have at the time. That's a good question. I had to have Chinese friends and Chinese family send it 5,000 renminbi at a time through Alipay and actually wire transfer to bank accounts, because they had to do like 5,000 renminbi a day. And that was the only way that it could be done. It's not easy to take money out of China, actually. So let's see. Nope, most people are just not interested in joining a party. Well, it's easy to say that, but there's millions and millions of people already in the party, So, but I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream today. It's almost. We're getting later in the day here, so I'm going to end the stream. It was nice talking to you all. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, have a good day.